The search is over. An alien wife finally reunites with her long-lost human love. The space station loomed before S, a massive lattice of steel and glowing panels suspended against the endless black of space. To any other traveler, it was just another refueling and trade hub. One of countless dots scattered across the galaxy, humming with activity commerce in the occasional bar fight, but to S it was the place where her journey, one that had lasted far too many years, might finally come to an end. She adjusted the hood of her cloak, hiding the long ears that marked her as Valkyrie. Her people were well known in this part of the galaxy, but she wasn't here to draw attention, she was here to find him. The human man she had married, the man she had lost. Docking Bay 12 had all the charm of a forgotten cargo hold. The walls were stained with a dull residue of years of fuel, exhaust. The floor cluttered with crates, broken tools, and the occasional discarded food wrapper. The station's artificial gravity wasn't perfect, making some of the smaller objects float ever so slightly before settling back down, as if reluctant to fully commit to staying put. Sierra's boots clicked softly against the metal as she walked, scanning the crowd. Humans, sullen traders, a couple of insectoid ZTH skittering across the floor, and there a man stood at a vendor stall, arguing over the price of a mechanical part. His voice was familiar even from this distance, low, rush, laced with that same exasperation she remembered from years ago when he used to get frustrated fixing the ship they once shared. She swallowed hard. It was him, Nathan Carter. He had changed. His hair, once neatly kept, was now a little longer, streaked with gray at the temples. He wore a jacket that had seen better days. His boots scuffed, his posture less rigid than it used to be, but it was him. S felt something tighten in her chest, a mix of anticipation and fear. She had prepared herself for this moment, imagined a dozen ways it would play out. In some, he would turn and recognize her, instantly pulling her into his arms as if no time had passed. In others, he would be angry, accusing her of abandoning him, demanding to know why she had left him to drift through the galaxy alone. But she had never prepared for the possibility that he might just not know her at all. Steeling herself, she stepped forward, moving through the bustling crowd with careful purpose. She waited until she was just a few feet behind him before speaking. Nathan, his shoulders tensed slightly just for a moment before he turned around. S felt the air leave her lungs. His face was the same, his eyes deep, sharp, filled with that quiet intensity, met hers, and then nothing. There was no flicker of recognition, no widening of his gaze, no sharp intake of breath, just pall-like confusion. Do I know you?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. S's brain momentarily stalled. She had chased rumors and half-truths across the stars to find him, had nearly been eaten by a carnivorous plant on Valor 6, and had spent the last 3 weeks on a smuggler ship that smelled like wet socks. And now he didn't even remember her. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She had planned for many things, but not this. He was still looking at her, waiting for an answer. A flicker of awkwardness passed over his face, as if he was trying to decide whether she was someone he had forgotten from a past job or just another eccentric stranger who had mistaken him for someone else. S took a slow breath. This was fine, she could fix this. She tilted her head slightly, offering a small smile. "I suppose it's possible you don't remember me. It has been a long time after all." Nathan narrowed his eyes, slightly scanning her face, as if searching for some hidden memory. "You do look kind of familiar," he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck, "but I can't place it." Should I? S raised an eyebrow. "I'd like to think so. We were married." There was a beat of silence. Nathan blinked, then let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. With S side crossing her arms. "So you don't remember that either?" Great. Nathan shook his head, quickly taking a half step back as if he needed space to process. No, hold on. Married you and me." He gestured vaguely between them, as if confirming he had the correct number of participants in this supposed marriage. "Yes," S said deadpan. "You and me." Nathan let out another disbelieving chuckle. "I think I'd remember getting married to." He paused, eyes narrowing slightly as he took in her features more carefully. His gaze flicked to the edge of her hood, where a stray lock of silver-white hair had escaped, and then finally to her ears. His expression shifted. S saw it, the flicker of something in his eyes. Recognition, a memory trying to surface, or was it just the realization that he had been speaking to a Valkyrie woman this whole time? Nathan exhaled. "Okay, you've got my attention." What exactly is this about? S studied him carefully. He truly didn't remember she had thought finding him would be the hardest part, but now standing here she realized that was only the beginning. She sighed, running a hand through her hair. Look, it's a long story, and I suspect you're not going to believe half of it, but first tell me. She gestured at him, at the worn jacket, the grease-stained gloves, the tired lines around his eyes. What exactly have you been doing all these years? Nathan let out a short, dry laugh. Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. S smirked. At least, he still had a sense of humor. That was something. Before she could respond, the vendor, who had been thoroughly ignoring their conversation, cleared his throat impatiently. So, are you buying the part or what? Nathan hesitated, then shot a glance at Si. Listen, if we were actually married, does that mean you're legally obligated to pay for my stuff? S scoffed. Absolutely not. Nathan sighed dramatically, then turned back to the vendor figures. Sarah watched him as he handed over a few credits. He might not remember her yet, but she had found him. That was what mattered, and if there was one thing she was certain of, it was that she wasn't going to lose him again, no matter what it took. S followed Nathan through the winding corridors of the space station, her mind racing with possibilities. She had prepared for countless scenarios: anger, resentment, even disbelief, but she hadn't expected this. He truly had no memory of her, no recognition, no buried emotions surfacing, nothing. It was as if their years together had been wiped away, leaving only an empty space where their history should have been. Nathan moved with the ease of someone who had been on this station for a while, dodging maintenance droids and stepping over a loose panel on the floor without a second glance. Sierra, on the other hand, nearly tripped over it. Watch your step, Nathan said over his shoulder. Unless you enjoy sudden falls in public embarrassment. S narrowed her eyes at him. I see your sense of humor. Survived, at least best defense mechanism in the galaxy, he quipped. Well, that and running really fast. S smirked but said nothing. She was too busy analyzing him, trying to see if there were any traces of the man she had once loved. His movements were familiar, the way he rubbed the back of his neck when thinking, the way his fingers twitched like he was ready to grab a tool and start fixing something. But there was something missing, that spark, that deep, quiet certainty she used to see in his eyes when he looked at her. Here we are, Nathan announced, stopping in front of a narrow door with a keypad. He pressed a few buttons and the lock released. With a faint hiss, the door slid open to reveal a small, cluttered living space, part workshop, part storage room, and only a tiny fraction of it resembling actual living quarters. S stepped inside, surveying the chaos. Tools, scraps of metal, and half-assembled gadgets were strewn across every available surface. A small cot was shoved against the wall with a blanket in such a state of disrepair that it looked like it had fought in a war and lost. Nathan scratched the back of his head. Oh, excuse the mess, I wasn't exactly expecting company. S raised an eyebrow. Clearly he gestured vaguely at the single chair in the room. Make yourself as comfortable as possible, I guess. Just don't sit on that crate, it has a habit of collapsing unexpectedly. S chose to remain standing. Charming place, it really screams former pilot turned wandering mechanic who has no idea he used to be married. Nathan sat on the cot, arms resting on his knees as he exhaled. Okay, so let's start with the obvious. You say we were married. We were. And I don't remember any of it. That part is also correct. Nathan sighed, rubbing his temples. Great love that for me. He looked up at her. Oh, sure you've got the right guy. S folded her arms. Do you honestly think I spent years traveling across the galaxy, following rumors, tracking leads, and surviving questionable food poisoning on a Sargel and freighter just to mistake you for someone else? Nathan blinked. Questionable food poisoning? Don't ask. Nathan let out a short laugh, but it faded quickly. All right, so assuming you're not completely messing with me, why don't I remember? If we were together, I should have something, a vague memory, a gut feeling, but there's just nothing. S frowned. That was the real mystery, wasn't it? She had assumed, hoped that he had simply been lost, that she would find him, and they could pick up where they left off, but now she had to consider something far worse. Maybe your memories were taken from you, she said. Nathan tilted his head. You say that like it's a thing that can happen, sir. Aside, Nathan, you've been in this galaxy long enough to know that memories can be altered. Technology exists to rewrite minds, to erase pieces of the past, and if someone wanted to keep us apart, taking your memories would be the easiest way to do Nathan ran a hand down his face. Great, love the idea that my brain might have been tampered with makes me feel all warm and fuzzy, inside S stepped. Closer, lowering her voice, but that means we can get them back. Nathan eyed her. Whaley, how that depends. Where have you been these last few years? Nathan hesitated. Mostly freelancing, ship repairs, cargo runs, occasional smuggling. S's eyes narrowed, but only the harmless kind. Nathan added quickly, you know. Small-time stuff, helping out people who need to move things quietly. S sighed. You always had a talent for getting into trouble. Nathan shrugged. It's a skill. Did you ever wake up somewhere without remembering how you got there? Lose time. Nathan was about to answer no, then he stopped. A flicker of something crossed his face. His fingers twitched slightly, like he was trying to hold on to a thought that was slipping away. There was one time, he admitted slowly, a few years ago, I took a job on a deep space freighter moving parts for some private research facility. The job was supposed to take 3 days, but when I woke up, I was in an escape pod drifting near the outer colonies. My ship was gone, my crew was gone, and I had no memory of what happened in between. S's breath caught. That could be it. Nathan frowned. It could also just mean I got hit on the head really hard. S rolled her eyes. Nathan, your entire ship disappeared, your crew disappeared, and you don't remember anything? That's not just a bad hangover. Nathan sighed. Okay, fair point, so what now? Sierra tapped her fingers against her arm, thinking, we need to find out who hired you for that job. If they wiped your memories, they might still have them stored somewhere. Nathan groaned. Fantastic, so now I have to go digging into a job I don't remember, done for people who may or may not want me dead. S smirked. Wouldn't be the first time. Nathan chuckled. You know, if we really were married, I feel like I should remember the part where you constantly dragged me into insane schemes. S gave him a sly look. You enjoyed them? Nathan snorted. I find that very hard to believe, but as he met her gaze, something flickered in his expression, something uncertain, something questioning. A small part of him deep down was beginning to wonder, maybe she wasn't lying, maybe she really was someone he had loved, and maybe, just maybe, the biggest mystery of his life was about to unravel. Nathan stared at the blinking terminal screen in front of him, the blue light reflecting off his face as he tapped his fingers against the metal table. The room was dimly lit, the hum of the space station's ventilation system filling the silence. Between him and S, she stood beside him, arms crossed, her long ears twitching slightly as she studied the data scrolling across the monitor. So let me get this straight, Nathan said, exhaling. The last known job I took was from some unregistered deep space research facility. My ship and crew vanished into thin air, and I conveniently woke up in an escape pod with no memory of it. That sums it up, S confirmed, tilting her head. Well, except for the part where I spent years trying to find you while you were busy. What was it? Smuggling harmless goods. Nathan smirked. Hey, those harmless goods kept food on the table, and by table I mean whatever crate I was using as a table that week. He gestured around his cluttered quarters. Not all of us have the luxury of high-tech alien royalty. S rolled her eyes. You married into royalty, Nathan. That made you technically a prince. Nathan choked. A prince? Me, sir smirked. You had a crown in everything. Nathan leaned back, rubbing his temples. Okay, that's definitely something I should have remembered. S smirk faded. You should have. A heavy silence settled between them, the weight of lost years pressing down. Nathan let out a slow breath. All right, so where do we start? S pointed at the terminal. Your last employer. If they erased your memories, they probably kept records. Nathan stared at the screen. You say that like you've never dealt with criminal organizations before. People who erase memories don't exactly leave helpful paper trails. S smiled. Good thing I know someone who specializes in uncovering things people don't want found. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Let me guess, some shadowy information broker, a cyber hacker with a tragic backstory, or a sudden knock interrupted him. Nathan turned, then immediately recoiled as the door slid open and a small round alien with 6 arms, beady black eyes, and a grin too wide for comfort waddled inside. Sir, the creature exclaimed in a raspy voice, you still owe me for that incident on Zari's 5. Nathan blinked. Okay, I wasn't in whatever this is. The alien waved a tiny clawed hand in Nathan's direction. And who is this, your pet human, sir? Sighed Nathan. Meet DRK, meet my. She hesitated. Nathan narrowed his Eyes, what was that? Pause. Diarzik squinted at him. Wait, this is the husband, the one who vanished. Nathan frowned. I don't like the way you said that. DRK clicked his tongue. You know, I lost good credits betting you were dead. Charming, Nathan muttered, and here I was hopping to be Miss Diarzik, climbed onto a crate, making himself comfortable. So what do you want? A heartwarming reunion, a romantic drama moment? He waggled his clawed fingers. Or do you need me to dig up something juicy? SRA cut in. We need information about Nathan's last job, a deep space freighter, unregistered employer. We think they wiped his memory. DRK let out a sharp whistle. Oof, memory wipes are nasty business, expensive too. Whoever did it must have had a reason. Nathan leaned forward. Can you find out who it was? DRK grinned. For a price. Nathan sighed. Of course. S crossed her arms. We already saved your life on Zaris 5. Consider this repayment. DRK scowled. That was years ago, and yet you still have your life. DRK grumbled something under his breath, then pulled out a small device from his belt. With a few clicks, the screen flickered to life, displaying a swirling mass of data. His 6 fingers moved with unnerving speed as he hacked into various encrypted networks. Nathan watched in fascination. You do this often? Diarzik didn't look up. If I had a credit for every time someone wanted to erase their past, I'd own a moon by now. The screen flickered, then suddenly stopped on a single name. Sir's eyes narrowed. There, Nathan squinted at the display. The name scrambled. DRK snorted. Of course it is. Whoever did this had resources. Nathan frowned. Can you decode it? DRK tapped his claws against the device. I can try, but it'll take time. Whoever erased you didn't just want you to forget, they wanted to make sure no one could trace them back. Nathan exhaled. Fantastic. Fastic S glanced at him. At least now we have a lead. DRK smirked. A very dangerous lead. You sure you want to poke this beast? Nathan met S's gaze for the first time. Something in his gut told him this was bigger than just lost memories. He had the nagging feeling that whoever took his past wasn't done with him yet. He looked back at Diarzik. Yeah, we poked the beast. Diarzik chuckled. Well, in that case you two might want to buckle up. Nathan stared at the encrypted name on DRK's screen, the scrambled text flickering like a taunt from someone who had been a step ahead of him. For years his own past was sitting right in front of him, hidden behind layers of digital security, and the more he thought about it, the more it irritated him. He had woken up in an escape pod with no memory, spent years hopping between shady jobs, and now he was supposed to believe that some faceless entity had wiped him clean. Like a corrupted data chip, he tapped his fingers against the table inside. So he said, glancing at DRK, how long is this decoding thing going to take? Should I grab a snack, a nap, start an entirely new life while I wait? Drit gave him a dry look, his 6 fingers moving rapidly across his handheld device. Do I look like a miracle worker? Nathan opened his mouth, then closed it, his eyes flicking to sold. I answer that. S smirked. Probably not if you want him to keep helping us. Tresk let out an exaggerated sigh. Look, your name wiping friends did a thorough job. This isn't just encryption, it's got triple-layered obfuscation with a self-masking subroutine. If I push too hard, it could trigger a fail-safe and erase everything. Nathan frowned. And I assume that's bad. Oh no, it's great. DRK deadpanned. I love when all my hard work goes up in digital flames. Sierra stepped forward, placing a hand on Nathan's shoulder. We'll wait, it's not like rushing will do us any good. Nathan let out a slow breath and rubbed his temple. Fine, while we wait, I'd love some more context about this whole I was a prince thing. He turned to S. Because I feel like that's the kind of detail you don't just forget to mention. S shifted uncomfortably, her long ears twitching. It wasn't exactly a traditional monarchy, more like a ruling council. Nathan raised an eyebrow. And I was on this council. Well, S hesitated. Technically no, but as my bonded partner you were given an honorary title. Nathan leaned back. I was a decorative prince. DRK snorted. That explains why you don't remember anything. Your brain probably rejected it on instinct. Nathan shot him a glare. Thanks. DRK super helpful. Siri. Nathan, you weren't just some figurehead, you had responsibilities, allies, you were part of something important. Her expression softened. You were important. Nathan scratched his chin. And yet someone decided I was important enough to erase. DRK clicked his tongue. Bingo, he gestured At the screen, and whatever this name is, it's tied to that decision. Nathan exhaled. Right, so while you work on that. Let's go over what we do know. He turned to SI, disappeared from a deep space. Research job. Do we have any way of tracking that facility down? S tapped her fingers against her arm. I might the. Valari, my people monitor deep space anomalies, especially unregistered ones. If this facility was experimenting with something dangerous, it might have left a trail. Nathan frowned. You make it sound like I was involved in something shady. SI didn't respond right away. That silence told him more than words could. He crossed his arms. Okay, I'll bite. What's the worst case scenario? Diarzik smirked. Worst case, you were working for a top secret experiment, saw something you shouldn't have, and they scrubbed your brain to keep you quiet. Nathan nodded slowly. Great love, that super reassuring. S placed a hand on his arm. We don't know that's what happened. Nathan let out a humorless chuckle. Yeah, then what do we know? Drake suddenly perked. Yupo, I know something. Both Nathan and Saw turned toward him. Drake grinned. I cracked the first layer of encryption. Nathan's stomach clenched and DRK turned the screen toward them. Recognized this. Nathan's eyes scanned the text. At first it was just a jumble of characters, then his gaze landed on a word that made his breath hitch. Argus. S's eyes widened. The Argus Initiative. Nathan stared at the screen. I don't know what that is. S's voice was tense. The Argus Initiative was a research group, a very secretive one. It was rumored to be involved in, well, dangerous things. Nathan frowned. Like what? DRK wagged a finger. Ah, now, that is the million credit question, isn't it? Nathan exhaled. So I worked for these people. SI glanced at Diarzik, then back at Nathan. Maybe not willingly. Drake stretched his tiny arms. Well, I'll keep digging, but if Arrows is involved, we might be poking something bigger than we thought. Nathan muttered under his breath, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, that seems to be the theme of my life right now. S gave him a small smile. At least now we have a name. Nathan sighed. Yeah, now we just have to figure out what to do with it. DRK chuckled. That part easy. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Oh. DRK grinned. You go looking for trouble? Nathan took a deep breath, staring at the name on DRK's screen as if it might suddenly rearrange itself into something more comforting, but it didn't. It remained exactly as it was, an undeniable link to a past he couldn't remember. The Argus Initiative. The name felt foreign, yet it stirred something deep in his chest, an almost instinctive unease, like hearing a childhood bedtime story with an ending he had forgotten. C's golden eyes were fixed on him, searching for any flicker of recognition. Nathan, does it mean anything to you? He ran a hand through his hair. Not a thing. Should it? S hesitated. It's not just a name. Argus was a ghost, a legend among researchers and scientists. A facility no one could confirm even existed. People whispered that they conducted dangerous experiments, ones that blurred the line between science and something else. Nathan let out a slow breath. Okay, great love, that just when I was hopping for a nice simple explanation like, oh Nathan, you used to be a pastry chef in a deep space bakery. Diarzik snorted. With your luck, not a chance. Sierra crossed her arms. We need to find out where the Argos Initiative was operating. If we can locate one of their old facilities, we might get some answers. Nathan frowned. How do we do that if this place was so secretive? It's not like they had a big flashing neon sign saying evil science here. DRK grinned. No, but they did leave traces. Governments don't just fund shady experiments without keeping a few records, even if they're buried deep. He tapped a few buttons on his handheld device. And lucky for you, I have a few backdoor access points to certain classified databases. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Should I be worried about how you have that? DRK winked. Absolutely. S shook her head. We don't have time to be subtle. We need answers fast. Diarzik, can you pull up any past locations tied to Argus? DRK's fingers flew across his device. The screen flickered. Lines of alien code scrolling rapidly. Nathan had no idea what any of it meant, but DRK's expression shifted from amused to intrigued to mildly concerned in a matter of seconds. Well, Nathan prompted. DRK exhaled. Got something. There's a facility abandoned, supposedly on a dead moon orbiting a gas giant in the Jazari system. He glanced up. And when I say dead moon, I mean if we go there, we should definitely bring extra air. Sierra frown. How well protected is it? DRK smirked. Depends on your definition of well. The Good news is there aren't any life signs, the bad news is there's a whole lot of automated security, Nathan sighed of. Course there is, Sar looked determined. We don't have a choice if this place holds any information about what happened to you. We have to go. Nathan hesitated then. Not at all right, but let's be clear, if this turns out to be some kind of secret horror lab filled with mutant space spiders, I reserve the right to scream and run. DRK grinned, noted with their next step. Decided they wasted no time prepping for departure. Kraw's ship, the Verth Edge, was sleek, fast, and Nathan was grateful to learn equipped with an arsenal that could probably punch a hole through a small planet if needed. As they strapped in, Nathan turned to Sarah. So be honest, on a scale of mild inconvenience to we're definitely going to die, how bad do you think this is going to be? S gave him a small teasing smile. Oh, I'd say somewhere around definitely going to regret it, Nathan groaned. Fantastic, can't wait. DRK chuckled from his seat. Just think of it this way, if you die, at least you won't have to deal with your memory problems anymore. Nathan shot him a look while a comforting thank you. As the Verth Edge leapt into hyperspace, Nathan leaned back, watching the swirling tunnel of blue light streak past the ship. He still had no idea what awaited them on that dead moon, but one thing was certain: he was finally getting closer to the truth, and something about that terrified him. The Var's Edge dropped out of hyperspace with a jolt, the view shifting from streaking blue light to the vast silent emptiness of the Jari system. Before them loomed the gas giant, a swirling behemoth of golden storms, its thick bands of clouds churning violently, and there nestled in its orbit like a forgotten relic was the dead moon. Nathan stared at it through the viewport. Wow, that place just screams bad idea. Diarzik let out a low whistle. Yeah, I've broken into a lot of sketchy places, but this one has a certain you're definitely going to regret it. Vibe S's gaze was locked on the moon, her expression unreadable. We're going in. Nathan turned to her. I know I agreed to this whole find out why my brain is a scrambled mess plan, but did I specifically agree to the part where we land on a place that looks like it eats ships for breakfast? Sura smirked. You didn't, but you're here now. Diarzik grinned. That's the spirit. Now let's hope we don't explode on landing. Nathan shot him a look. I'm sorry, what? But before he could protest further, SRA guided the ship toward the surface, navigating through a thin but turbulent atmosphere. The Verth Edge rattled slightly as they descended, the onboard AI murmuring a string of polite warnings that were the artificial intellig equivalent of, "Are you sure you want to do this? Because it's really, really dumb." The moon's surface was a bleak, desolate wasteland of jagged rock and frozen dust, but nestled in a crater near the equator was something entirely unnatural, a sprawling facility, its metal structures partially buried under centuries of neglect. Lights flickered faintly along some of the exterior walls, suggesting that despite its abandoned state, there was still power running through its veins. Nathan exhaled. Great, because if there's one thing worse than an abandoned lab, it's an abandoned lab that's partially working. S brought the ship down on a flat patch of ground near the entrance. As the landing gear extended, Diarzik ran one last scan. No life signs, no ships. Just a bunch of lovely, highly advanced automated defense systems. Nathan groaned. Lovely. SRA was already up, strapping a plasma pistol to her thigh. We'll have to disable the security man manually once we're inside. We split up. Diarzik, you work on overriding their systems. Nathan and I will search for any files connected to the Argus initiative. Nathan hesitated. And oh, what happens if we run into something that isn't supposed to be here? Jix smirked. You scream and run while SRA does all the work. Nathan sighed. Figures. They suited up and made their way outside, stepping onto the moon's surface. Their breath came through their suits. Internal oxygen supplies the air around them too thin and laced with toxic elements to breathe safely. Every step crunched against the brittle dust. As they approached the entrance, the facility doors loomed over them, sealed shut, but lined with old rusted defense turrets that thankfully seemed inactive. Nathan reached out and tapped one with his knuckle. So these aren't going to shoot us, right? Diarzik chuckled. Not unless you want me to wake them up. Pass. SRA approached the access panel, her fingers moving swiftly over its corroded surface. The screen flickered to life, alien script scrolling rapidly. She frowned. It's requesting biometric clearance. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Well, unless one of us is secretly an evil scientist, I'm guessing We don't have that, Diarzik grinned. Oh, come on, where's the fun in that? Let's see if I can introduce it to my favorite hacking tool. He pulled out a small device and connected it to the panel. The screen flashed red, then green, and the doors let out a deep groan as they slid open. A wave of stale, pressurized air hissed out. Beyond the entrance, the facility was eerily dark, the faint hum of machinery echoing from somewhere deep within. Nathan swallowed. Oh yeah, this is definitely where bad things happen. Sierra led the way inside, her weapon at the ready. The facility's corridors were lined with shattered screens and old lab equipment. Some rooms looked like they had been hastily abandoned, papers scattered across the floor, consoles frozen in mid-data transfer. The further they went, the more the place felt like a tomb. Nathan glanced at the walls. You ever get the feeling that a place wants you to leave? Diarzik chuckled. All the time, I just don't. Listen. S stopped at an old security checkpoint, accessing a terminal, her brow furrowed as she pulled up an ancient personnel log. Nathan, he stepped forward. The screen displayed a list of names: researchers, scientists, security personnel, but it was one in particular that sent a chill down his spine. Dr. Nathaniel Carter, lead geneticist, Argos Initiative. His breath hitched. The name was his, the title was not. Tresk let out a low whistle. Well, didn't see that coming. Nathan's heart pounded. I was a scientist. S stared at him, her expression unreadable. It looks like you weren't just any scientist, you were leading something. Nathan stumbled back, gripping the wall. His entire body felt like it had been doused in ice. This wasn't just some missing memory, this was something deeper, something fundamentally wrong. I don't. His voice caught. I don't remember any of this. S reached out, squeezing his arm gently. We'll figure it out, but we need to keep going. Nathan exhaled sharply and nodded, forcing himself to push forward whatever truth was buried here. He was finally close to uncovering it, and something about that terrified him more than anything else. Nathan stood in the heart of the abandoned facility, the glow of a flickering console casting shadows against his face. His name, Dr. Nathaniel Carter, still blinked on the screen, an eerie confirmation of a life he didn't remember. He could hear DRK typing furiously at another terminal, working to bypass the last of the facility's sec locks while S stood at his side, silent but watchful. He took a deep breath. Okay, so I was a scientist, a lead scientist apparently. That still doesn't explain why someone went through all the trouble of erasing my memory and dumping me halfway across the galaxy. S scrolled through the files. It wasn't just you. Look at this. She pulled up a personnel manifest. Nearly every name on the list was marked deceased or missing. The entire research team had been wiped out, their records redacted, their work classified under an old military directive. Tresk let out a low whistle. Wow, you weren't just working on a science project, you were working on something someone really didn't want getting out. Nathan frowned, staring at the fragmented files. Then he saw it, an old grainy image. A research team stood in front of a massive containment chamber, all smiles, and right there, standing beside his past self, was S. His blood ran cold. Sir, she didn't react immediately. Her silver eyes were fixed on the screen, something unreadable in her expression. Nathan turned to her. You were here, you knew me before, why didn't you say anything? Sierra hesitated, then exhaled. I didn't remember either, not until recently when I first met you again. Something felt familiar, but I couldn't place it. Then when we entered this facility, it started coming back. She met his gaze. We weren't just colleagues, Nathan, we were partners in this research. We were trying to stop the Argus Initiative. Nathan felt a strange pressure in his chest, and what was the Argus Initiative? DRK's console let out a triumphant beep. I think I can answer that. The screen filled with data, old reports, video logs, encrypted messages. The Argus Initiative had been a secret project designed to harness genetic modification on a scale never attempted before. They had discovered remnants of an ancient alien race, beings with the ability to manipulate biological matter at will. The research had started as an attempt to understand their DNA, but it quickly became something else. They were trying to create hybrids. DRC muttered, soldiers, spies, weapons, using alien DNA to make something more. Nathan's stomach twisted. And we were stopping it. S nodded. You were the one who realized what was happening. You sabotaged their work from the inside. That's why they erased your memory. That's why they erased all of us. Nathan leaned against the console, his head spinning. He had spent so much time wondering who he was, and now that the answers were here, they were heavier than he had ever expected. He had fought against something terrible. He had lost everything to do it, and then a new alert popped up on the screen remote. Activation detected, security protocols reinstated. Diarzik piled. That's not good. The ground beneath them rumbled as red emergency lights flared to life. A deep mechanical voice boomed over the intercom. Unauthorized access detected. Initiating purge sequence. SRA grabbed Nathan's arm. We need to go now. Drake was already sprinting toward the exit. I hate it when abandoned death labs do this. The FAC facility shuddered as automated defenses reawakened, turrets swiveling to life, drones detaching from the ceiling. They burst into the corridor, dodging plasma fire as they ran. Nathan skidded around a corner, ducking as a blast scorched the wall inches from his head. Less shooting, more leaving, he shouted. Diarzik slammed his hacking device into a side panel. I can lock down the security for a few minutes. Buy us some time. Hesitated DRK. He grinned. Relax, I'm not that self-sacrificing. I'll be right behind you. Nathan grabbed S's hand. We're getting out of here together. She squeezed his fingers just for a second before nodding. They sprinted toward the docking bay, the Varus edge waiting like a beacon. The ship's AI had already powered up the engines, sensing the escalating danger behind them. Drit came sprinting around the corner. Good news, I shut down the security grid. He pointed over his shoulder. Bad news, I might have also triggered the facility self-destruct. Nathan groaned. Of course you did. They scrambled aboard the ship's ramp, closing just as explosions rocked the facility. SRA jumped into the pilot seat, gripping the controls. Hold on. The ship shot upward, breaking through the moon's thin atmosphere as fire and debris erupted behind them. Nathan watched from the viewport as the facility crumbled, vanishing into a cloud of dust. Silence settled in the cockpit, broken only by the hum of the engines. Diarzik let out a long sigh. Well, another highly classified, definitely illegal research facility successfully destroyed. That's what 3 now. Nathan exhaled, leaning against the wall, his entire body ucked, his mind still reeling from everything he had learned, but for the first time in a long time he didn't feel lost. He finally knew who he was, and he knew he wasn't alone. S turned in her chair, watching him. What now? Nathan considered that he had spent so much time searching for answers, and now that he had them, the future felt strangely open. He smiled. Now we keep going. There's a whole galaxy out there, and something tells me we're not done causing trouble yet. DRK grinned. That's the best plan I've heard all day. S tilted her head. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to see what else we can take down. Nathan laughed for the first time and felt like forever. It wasn't a laugh to hide his fear, it was real. As the stars stretched out before them, the Varth edge vanished into the void. 3 unlikely allies bound by fate, heading toward whatever adventure came next. The end.